All right, guys, let's have a meeting. Everyone gather around. Sorry for the interruptions, right? All right, mate. Here we are. So, Pentagon, you need to sit around for this as well. This is about geostrategy, business practices, tactics we can use going forward, as well as analyzation of the chessboard and looking it at all different angles so we know how to approach these problems. Also, propose solutions for what's going forward. Today is June 3rd, 2023. All right. Now, let's start with the banking plays, right? Did you notice that recently Joe Biden went and met with Marcos and Mr. Donald Trump had went and met with Duerte, right? Those were two separate public meetings in the Philippines. Each one proposed alternative visions for the Philippines. See, the thing is, the Philippines wants to fulfill some old executive orders. And there's some executive orders that were written in the Philippines that says by 2040 that the Asian areas are going to be turned into Middle Eastern areas. So they want to develop favelas and ghettos and people who live in huts or they live in a very poor area that doesn't have a lot of economic development into a nicer middle class area. Right. So further, Marcos himself has asked for sovereign wealth fund, right, and manufacturing deals. And this is something that's being fulfilled on either side, whether it comes from Republicans or Democrats. The problem with with ASEAN, right? Did you notice when Malaysia collapsed, right? The people rose up and they removed their political leaders out of office, went up into the buildings, literally snatched them up and pulled them out, right? The way to peace for ASEAN is development. This is why I have the backing of my people, and we are very aware of what needs to be done in ASEAN. It's a manufacturing play. You give these individuals manufacturing gigs, they're employed again, and they're able to rebuild the neighborhoods into places that are nicer. And this adds to the overall wealth of the area and builds it back up into a higher economic round. This is why I invested all the money into global currency baskets. And this is why, out of Switzerland, I gave BRICS their seed money to begin. It's a simple play. My people at the International Monetary Fund are fully aware that this is a simple play of repairing problems in the Asian area, as well as South Asia and Southeast Asia, all these areas of Asia. It's very simple to repair it. My people at HSBC know this. We're fully aware. One of the main focuses that I've been developing this entire time is turning Singapore into the Asian-based Switzerland, and it's been pretty successful. One of my business partners, his name is Mr. Jin Laku, of the Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. Him and I worked together hand in hand over these years building up Singapore. Now I have an Asian-based Switzerland, right? Getting these individuals on our side is very simple. Giving them manufacturing deals again and manufacturing places, hubs, warehouses to build stuff is perfectly fine because we can register these companies with the Navy, we can register them with the intelligence communities, we can have them run by our operatives. We can provide ourselves with a host area of bases militarily, which is very important. So you're like, what do we get out of it? Well, we get all our military bases that we need again. right? Which is pretty important for geostrategy going forward. That handles a big portion of Asia. See, China's goods and services are becoming more pricey. Vietnam knows this. Vietnam has been playing on this model of taking away their businesses and doing manufacturing themselves because they produce it cheaper than what China can for goods and services. So they're trying to take in profit from it. They're fully aware of this. General Mad Dog Mattis was aware of these things, and that's why he had deals with Cambodia back when he was in the military branches before he retired when Trump was in office, setting up a lot of the groundwork for this stuff. India is fully aware of making money this way. This is where they know they can ship their goods along the South Indian Ocean, have it stop out in southern Australia, drop off goods and services, and then over to the west to make even more profits. The way of quelling the chaos of that region is a manufacturing and development deal. I bring this up to you because right now all of the Western real estate individuals worldwide have been telling everybody, look, we're getting ready to go through a big gigantic shitstorm in Western real estate. We're not going to be able to profit as much off rents. We can't sell properties as much. There's going to be additional fees and services tacked on, making things go up even higher. We're going to end up losing money. Barbara Corcoran, one of the individuals, just get ready to said, all hell is getting ready to break loose in the real estate market. People are not even happy with what's going on with Justin Trudeau's interference in Canada. They made it very clear to him. Why is that? Well, Canada just recently snubbed China. China just snubbed Canada, right? Which had Italy tell China, well, we're not participating in your Belt and Road Initiative. And now all the big corporate heads are like, well, Trudeau, you're a gigantic failure. We don't like you. And now we're going to deal with a gigantic shitstorm in other markets. So again, being aware of this is the best thing for you going forward. Because you want to know how to appropriately invest your money to actively avoid these types of things. You have to look at it like a global chessboard. You can't be one team or the other. That never makes any sense for anybody, mate. This is about your individual profits. Okay? So you have to dissect it. Now, geostrategy, right? Kim Jong-un is a descendant down from the Manchurian Empire, right? The Manchu Emperor. That's his whole bloodline. Their territorial claims used to be a whole lot higher than what just North Korea was. They had more land back in the day. Kim knows this. And again, you have all of South Korea who's always offending the Korean royal family with their overuse of tech firms and the Samsungs and the Sonys and all the wired-in Wi-Fi technology and modern-day pop music and everything else. And Kim does not care for any of that. It's like comparing 1950s America to a gay pride parade in Tel Aviv. No offense, mate, but that's the difference in cultural views between the two areas. So it's divide and conquer. And that's the problem, right? And Kim is not happy with these things. So again, that's why he has been launching off bombs in the Pacific, and he's going to be making spy satellites to go around and start spying on what the West is doing. We already withdrew forces out to South Korea. Now, Moon Jae-in in South Korea and all those people affiliated with South Korea go running to the United Nations every time missiles are launched. This has created a headache geostrategy for us trying to find a peaceful ground going forward, because you have several camps. You have a camp that wants war, you have a camp that wants peace. You have a camp that says, I don't care either way, fuck around and find out. So that's the problem, right? Also, we must look at Japan versus China. Japan is controlled by the ancient Khazars, and they serve Mr. Emperor Hirohito himself. Naruhito, mate. Of the Peacock Throne of Japan, right? Old samurai emperor bloodline. Well, there's an old bloodline grudge between Japan and China. And China's not controlled by Xi Jinping, mate. If you think that, you'll be deceived. China's controlled by the Golden Dragon family. And the Golden Dragon family are descended down from the Zhou dynasty. The emperor of the Zhou dynasty, he's very much still alive, and his clan members. And they have a base. It's beneath the Forbidden City in Beijing, and they're not dead. And they hate the Japanese, and the Japanese hate them. So that's a nightmare problem there. Because you have to understand that it's not the United States that China despises. And there's a reason China doesn't want to talk to Japan with the with the United States, mate. And that's simply put because China views the United States as Japan's attack dog. And I'm not calling you fake or anything, but they think you're like the bodyguard of Japan. And they despise you. That's why there's been no comms. That's why they've been making more and more active moves, supplying Russians with weapons. And that's why no one even spoke to the United States when we just had the Singapore summit. Right, there was a complete snub. The goal of the summit was trying to get both sides to talk, and China's not interested, man. And it has to do with this old bloodline grudge. You have to understand this stuff. You're dealing with ancient Asian royal bloodlines. You're dealing with dragon emperor bloodlines. You're dealing with stuff that existed long before America was even a thought. And thinking that you can just play buddy-buddy with everybody isn't reality. Also, they're very offended by Taiwan because the royal family from Taiwan is the Zhou dynasty's son's private property. So it's like the Zhou dynasty is very angry that his son thinks he can go grandstanding with Taiwan when that's part of the family. By saying, no, it's because of us and our royal family that we own this. And he's like, well, I'm your dad, I'm not dead. It's still part of our house. What are you doing, boy? So that's the problem, understanding Taiwan from a family's perspective to apply it going forward. You must understand these things. Also, on top of that, there's about $10 million in in-ground mineral resource assets. 10 trillion, not 10 million. That create chips and all these other types of things for individuals around the planet, for missile systems and technology and laptops and computers and classified stuff for the military. And you have to understand, the in-ground mineral resource assets, China has a monopoly upon it, and they own about 90% of them worldwide. That's a concern, isn't it? I think it's a big-time concern. So, again, the divide and conquer tactics are actively in play. And this is why I stress that we invest in both sides. What are you talking about? Invest in both sides. Because irrespective of who wins, we're still going to make profit. It's an old Rothschild play. Remember when the Napoleonic Wars went on, we invested in both sides, and irrespective of who won, we still made profit? Well, I'm telling you to do the same thing here so you don't lose any money. Because again, it's a business, we have to make a profit, and you have to understand those types of things, right? And there's always a loser when the war ends. So again, you want to invest in both sides and be smart about it. And that's why Singapore is a neutral hub, because it provides you with the economic ability to invest in both sides. And you have a buffer between it all. You can wash your hands and it doesn't come back upon you. No one is being a traitor here. It's about trying to make money. The real estate development goals alone through Asia between now and 2040 are a way to recuperate all the loss in real estate market money in the West. You'll make so much more cash back. Approaching it as a business plan is the best idea. Another thing, and I'm going to leave it at this. Our military members and people who are getting ready for war, when you support Asia in all the territory from beneath Taiwan all the way down, well, you just surrounded Asia, right? Because you got all those bases opened up, and then you can just bring in your fleet from the Pacific, and guess what? North Korea, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and China are now walled in. Pretty simple, right? Yeah. It's a good chess play, isn't it, right? What is the move they can make when they're surrounded on all sides? There is no move. They're just going to resort to aggression, get messier, start applying themselves, start power jockeying themselves, and then war will kick off. Recently, we just had a big, gigantic Chinese ship come across a Philippine ship. Real big time bullying right up next to them, maybe 5 feet away from the mast, threatening them. And the United States has simply said, look, if you all attack any of the Philippines vessels, we'll consider it an act of war and we'll respond in kind. So again, we're looking at a war in the Pacific. But being prepared for that war is the smartest thing going forward. And knowing who you can trust and where you can trust is a big thing, right? And knowing that ASEAN and all of that Southeast Asia area wants manufacturing, well, that gets them all on our side, right? They got jobs again, they're working, they're developing, and guess what? That provides us with all of our bases there. Another thing when dealing with the Pacific area is that they claim about $4 to $6 trillion in trade that passes through the Southeast China Sea. It's more than that. It's closer to 10 to 12 trillion. A lot of the things that they put on the boats are off the books. And we know this because we've literally viewed them with our military submarines. We've taken photos and videos. We watch them take these goods and services and sell them off books for drugs, sell them off books for guns. And then they to pirates and things of this nature, and they take those guns and they sell them to war-torn areas in the Middle East or Africa or wherever the case may be. They make profit off of that. Then they take the drugs and they take it over to South America, and this has caused an influx of immigrants carrying Chinese fentanyl and all other types of drugs to come and flood the United States. This is a destabilization tactic that they have been using to try to close down our borders. South America doesn't care. It's a hub of corruption. They make money off prostitution, drug dealing, cartels, all this other type of stuff. That's their bread and butter. So they want more corruption and they welcome the business from China. When you take these weapons and they sell them off to people in the Middle East and whatnot, these shahs and these caliphs, they play in actual Chinese gold, gold, silver, whatever precious metal or commodity, because that's what they have. They're like, oh, here's a big old box of treasure for these weapons. And this is the way they've been making profit. And we know they've been doing this. We filmed them on our satellites. We filmed them on our submarines. Again, surround the entire chessboard, divide and conquer, invest in both sides, and after the war is done, whoever comes out on the head, you'll make a profit either way. And that's how we actually win this coming conflict with Asia.